There is a kind of warning that does not raise its voice. It arrives quietly, dressed as advice, tradition, or caution. Most people laugh at it. Later, they call the consequences destiny. This is a story about people who had such a warning and chose confidence over wisdom. It is about a village that believed it knew better than its elders, better than the land, and better than silence. By the time understanding arrived, the warning had already stepped aside. Long before roads cut through the earth and long before time was measured by clocks, communities survived by paying attention. People listened to elders, respected the soil beneath their feet, and understood that silence often carried guidance. In those days, wisdom was not debated for pride. It was respected for survival. At the edge of a wide savanna, where red earth stretched beneath tall trees, there stood a village called Umura. Umura was not overflowing with riches, but it lacked nothing essential. What truly defined the village was peace, and in many African homes, peace is considered the greatest wealth a family can hold. At the center of Umura lived an elderly man known as Bobakanda. Age had curved his back and softened his steps, and his beard carried the pale color of many dry seasons. Time had taken much from him, but his hands remained steady. Those hands carried memories and lessons that no longer needed many words. Bobakanda guarded a drum unlike any other. It was shaped from strong Iroko wood and covered with animal skin that had endured many seasons of sun and rain. Elders believed the drum existed before Umura itself. They called it the listening drum, not because it entertained the people, but because it spoke only when the village stopped paying attention. Whenever trouble approached through hunger, pride, or selfish ambition, the drum would sound on its own. It always struck 3 times, never more and never less. Each time it did, elders gathered, people reflected, and Umura corrected its path. As the years passed, familiarity slowly replaced respect. Time has a way of making people forget why boundaries were created in the first place. Among the younger men was Zubri. He was confident, attractive, and skilled with words. He believed old ways belonged in the past and that tradition slowed progress. He often complained that elders spent too much time discussing history instead of building the future. Many people admired him, because arrogance often presents itself as leadership. Zubri questioned everything openly. He challenged the authority of elders, doubted the value of the drum, and treated tradition as an obstacle rather than guidance. What he wanted was speed, influence, and recognition. One season, small pieces of gold were discovered near the riverbank. They were enough to excite the village and awaken ambition. The elders met and decided mining should wait. The river nourished farms and families, and they wanted time to observe the land. Zubri dismissed the decision. He asked what waiting would accomplish when people desire change. He gathered young men and began mining secretly at night. Soon, gold filled their hands, and their attention shifted entirely from caution to gain. That was when the drum sounded. The village became alert, and the elders called for a meeting. Bobakanda spoke calmly, explaining that the land had been disturbed and something important had been ignored. Zubri stepped forward and questioned the warning, saying the drum offered no proof and that fear had controlled the village for too long. The elders did not argue. In African communities, silence is not agreement. It is observation. Mining continued. Trees were removed. The river lost its strength. Fish disappeared. Money flowed freely, but peace slipped away quietly. When the drum sounded again within the same season, something unheard of happened. Bobakanda collapsed. The elders understood the seriousness of the moment and announced that the drum would speak only once more before its voice disappeared forever. Zubri dismissed the warning and encouraged the people to rely on themselves. Soon after, the rain stopped. Crops failed. Children cried from hunger. Gold became useless because it could not be eaten. The river turned muddy and unkind. Zubri tried to lead with commands and promises, but confidence could not restore balance. One night, desperate, he went to Baba Kanda and asked for help. The old man explained gently that leadership is not about loudness, but about listening before acting. That night, the drum spoke for the final time. It struck 3 times and then fell silent. By morning, the drum was damaged beyond repair. Its voice was gone. Without guidance, Umira struggled. Families argued, land became a source of conflict, and unity collapsed. Zuberi lost the admiration he once enjoyed, and blame replaced praise. Years passed, and time did what punishment could not. The gold disappeared. The noise faded. The land healed slowly, the way wounds do when they are finally left alone. A new generation grew up in Umira, not hearing the drum, but living with the consequences of ignoring it. Zuberi grew older too. The same man who once spoke louder than everyone now spoke carefully. The same man who mocked caution now measured his words. Each evening, he sat beneath a white tree while children gathered around him, their faces open and curious. He told them stories, not of victory or pride, but of mistakes. He taught them that progress without wisdom destroys what it claims to build. He explained that confidence without listening turns strength into danger. He reminded them that some lessons do not arrive twice. One evening, as the sun lowered itself behind the trees, a child looked up at him and asked a simple question. Will the drum ever speak again? Zuberi looked at the land, at the river that had once suffered, and at the village that had paid a heavy price for pride. Then he shook his head. No, he said. Because wisdom does not beg. When it speaks and you refuse to hear it, it steps aside and allows life to teach you instead. There is an old African truth that says anyone who closes their ears to advice will eventually open their eyes in trouble. This story is not only about Umira. It is about every person who laughs at warning, every moment we choose speed over understanding, and every time we mistake noise for leadership. Tradition is not the enemy of progress. Listening is not weakness. Power without wisdom always ends in loss. And some warnings come only once. So let me ask you, gently and honestly. In your own life, what warning have you heard before and chosen to ignore because it sounded old?